Colonel John Agnello, commander of the 2nd Theater Information Advantage Detachment. Colonel, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate your time today. Tell me about the mission of the TIADs.
So the TIAD was designed, the Army decided to stand up 3 organizations, one for the Pacific Theater, one for the European Theater, and one to support Army Cyber. The second TIAD is supporting Army Cyber's mission, and our job is to really understand the information space and to help commanders better understand and make better, faster, more informed decisions in the information space. The Army is always looking towards executing missions in throughout the competition continuum. And one of the big things that we continue to look at is in the information space. It really starts across the competition continuum. But when we talk competition, crisis, and conflict, the idea is information really surpasses individuals if it comes to when we're actually in conflict. But our adversaries are always fighting in the information space. So we are really the first organization the Army decided to stand up to go directly on the information space and bring together all the different aspects of information, from cyber and electronic warfare to information operations to psychological operations to civil affairs and to public affairs. The idea is by bringing all these together, we can converge forces and to support commanders' objectives and truly get after what's going on in the information.
You use 3 C's there. I love the alliteration: competition, crisis, and conflict. Is that the kind of the crux on that you base your tactical operations around?
Yeah, so the operational environment designed in, the Army looks at it as that there's 3 dimensions of the operational environment. There's the human, the physical, and the information dimension. Those three dimensions make up the operational environment, and the Army executes those operations through the competition continuum. So competition, looking at, what is there up to armed conflict, crisis being when something could start being small conflicts here and there, and raising all the way up to actual conflict when we're into large-scale combat operations. The TIAD really is one of those organizations that looks across all of that, sometimes focusing in the competition continuum and focusing in the competition space a lot of times, but we definitely have mission that follows all the way through the entire continuum.
You've done some exercises and experimentation. What have you learned from that, and how does it apply not just to the work that you're doing, but with the units that you're integrated with?
So over the last few years, the Army executed what's called a campaign of learning. And that part of campaign of learning was we stood up a TIAD out in the Pacific Theater, working with the Indo-PACOM and USURPAC G39 and the USURPAC staff. And the idea of that was to focus on what would a TIAD do to support the USURPAC commander. And we definitely pulled some lessons learned from that on what the structure looks like, what we would want to incorporate in there, what type of missions they could have, what technologies they need. And then moving forward into the next year, we went over into the European theater, working with the Avenger Triad 24. And then we stood up a TIAD out in USUR-EURAF, supporting the USUR-EURAF commander, supporting the 56 artillery commander. Now it's the multi-domain command. The idea was, how can we bring together these different effects and converge them into the battle space to actually really get after what the commander is looking for. With those, we truly did better understand what's the mission look like. What's the composition of the organization? Do we need different skill sets? What technologies we need? We learned a lot about the technologies we actually need. Those technologies really help us better visualize the information space, get after the information space. How can we actually gather the information that's out there, analyze it, produce it, and actually put it up into a help the commander better understand it? How can we show it? How do you visualize information? I think that's one of the hardest things that we have out there, is truly trying to get after what does it look like. people think about what this information space looks like, and they say, well, it's really just social media. You know, what's in social media? We're chasing Twitters. We're chasing Twitter. Chasing Twitter feeds and such. It's much more than that. The information space really is, what does a person on the ground need? What do they want? What are they saying? It's not just what's in social media. It's, you put a civil affairs officer on the ground that can understand, what do you need when it comes to water, power, sewage? You have psychological operations soldiers on the ground that can better understand, how do you influence a population to go in a direction? You have public affairs individuals that are out there that are to inform people. They inform domestic audiences, they inform foreign audiences. And then we have cyber officers and cyber soldiers and electronic warfare that really are looking at that. How do we execute cyber operations in this type of space? All of that really gets after what we're looking for.
What were some of the differences in the lessons that you learned from the European exercises versus the PACOM exercises?
Oh, so it's really interesting because the Pacific Theater and the European Theater are vastly different. Really, the Pacific Theater is our focus in a lot of cases. Now, I will tell you that our cyber TIAD, a little bit different because we're actually looking trans-regionally and globally. The idea of that is really, when we've got the European Theater and the Pacific Theater, and those TIADs are focused on actually providing support to those theater commanders, our cyber TIAD is really looking trans-regionally, and how can we help understand the cyberspace, and then also how can we support either theater, but also at the same time, we may need to be doing something and maybe do something different merely because we're not focused at one or the other. But I will tell you, some of the things we did learn is that definitely the structure the structure of the skill sets. I think we definitely know what skill sets we need. I think we've got a pretty good understanding of what technologies we need. I will say that because the theaters are vastly different, where the TIAD executes missions and how they execute missions is a little bit different. I'd say that the mission sets that a TIAD can do are very much like the Chinese food menu. You've got everything from executing cyberspace operations to doing target analysis of different audiences, to actually distributing pamphlets, or just doing social media tweets. All of those are vastly different, but I will tell you that in the Pacific Theater, because of the tyranny of distance, they call it, from where the island chains are, having someone on the ground in the theater doing something in one of the allied nation there is key. When in the European theater, a lot of times it's working much more with partners and allies because of the way the theater is actually laid out, and it's more of a land terrain versus a sea terrain.
Colonel, it's great to have you here. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.